Welcome, everyone. Namaste. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, here once again to share a little bit of your pleasure incorporated into daily living with you. These next episodes are all called It Could Only Happen at a Pleasure Party. To me, a pleasure party has been my livelihood for the past 40 years. And there are some of the most phenomenal and interesting and funny adventures that I've had doing pleasure parties. So I want to tell you about one tonight because this could really only happen at a pleasure party. I was doing parties at Fort Monmouth, not for the soldiers, but for their wives. And there were a lot of young women at the party. I would have to say easily 15, 16 girls. They all sat in a line in front of me. Everybody was very attentive and everybody was very interested in what was going on. And I was very excited to be there. It was probably winter because the windows were closed, the door was closed. And that was kind of unfortunate because everybody there was smoking cigarettes. It was choking me, but I had given up cigarettes at that point. And, here I am in a room full of people. If there were 16 women there, 13 of them were smoking cigarettes. There was one point where I'm doing my party and the smoke was so thick in the room that the fire alarm went off. So I figured, I'm going to be a good girl. And I took my chair that I had and I stood on it and I took one of my price lists and I fanned it and I blew it so that it would stop ringing. And it did. And so then I hopped back off the chair and then I continued to do my party. So I'm looking this way and I'm looking across at all the people. And at one point I looked over to the side and I saw a flash of light in the bathroom, which was sort of catty corner to where I was. And I was like, oh, that was unusual. Then I saw another flash of light and I was like, I saw a flash of light. So the hostess and I ran over there to look in the bathroom and lo and behold, the whole wicker, I don't know what they call them. It was like a decoration that had a shelf and you put candles on it and clothing, towels on it and whatever. And it was on fire because the hostess had lit a candle, I guess, underneath it. And the flame went up and caught a hold of this wicker decoration for her wall. And it was on fire. So she said, fire, fire. And everybody started freaking out. They freaked out so much. Some people ran out the door. Some people called 911. And some people ran into the kitchen with me and the hostess. One girl was so freaked out, she grabbed a colander and stuck it underneath the running water to, get some water to throw on the fire. I look at her holding this colander and I was like, this girl is freaked out blind. She doesn't see she's holding a colander. It was just too crazy. So I grab a pot and I fill it up with as much as I can and I bring it in and we throw it on the fire, and the hostess had already thrown something. So between our efforts, we put the fire out. Now, the fire was out completely, so someone called 911 back and they said, you don't have to send a fire truck. We put the fire out. And they said, okay, fine, we won't send a fire truck, but we do have to send a policeman so that we can make sure that this was not a false alarm, that you weren't just pretending or having some kind of a prank with us. So they said, okay, send the policeman. So the policeman comes, and a little while later, we hear a knock on the door. And the hostess goes to answer it, and in comes this guy who looked like he could be a model. He was at least 6'2", maybe 190, 200 pounds of muscle. He had the most broad shoulders and he was just gorgeous, handsome, tall, well-built. I mean, just gorgeous. And when everybody saw him come in the door, they were totally just smitten because they might have all been married. Like I always say, I may be married, but I'm not dead. And you could see this guy comes in. He was just gorgeous. So they all kind of like watch him walk by as he goes with the hostess to the bathroom. And we're all like, oh my God, look at how gorgeous he is. So I continue. The hostess says, come, keep doing your presentation. I'll show him what the damage was. And it didn't really matter that I tried to continue my presentation because nobody was listening. Everybody was still looking at him because as nice as he looked from the front, he looked just as nice from the back. And he was standing in the bathroom door talking to the hostess. And everybody was just looking at his back and his waist and his butt. He just was just gorgeous. So I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, this guy is way too good looking to be a cop. I bet you this was an elaborate ruse to get a male dancer in here. I'm going to find out. I'm really going to find out because they're spending a little too much time talking in that bathroom. Any minute now, I bet you he takes his shirt off. So they finished talking in the bathroom. And like I said, the whole party came to a halt because he was there. And, he kind of freaked a little bit when he first came in because as he's walking by the table, he looks down, he sees the vibrators, he sees the lickables, he sees nipple cream, he sees lingerie hanging, and he's like, oh boy, what did I come into? So now he's got these 16 women sizing him up, and he really is the minority. And we're all still checking him out because he was just too cute. So I was very bold back in the day. I'm still pretty bold, but this time I just let my mouth say it. And I said, excuse me, are you a male dancer? Was this like an elaborate ruse to get a male dancer here? And he said, no, ma'am. Poor thing. That probably embarrassed the hell out of him. He probably was all 26, 27 years old. He just did not hear that coming. He didn't see it coming, nothing. And I was like, I don't know. I think that if you wanted to be a male dancer, you would really make a killing. You look gorgeous. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you look great. So he was like, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. What did he know? What was he going to say? So he ended up leaving, and after he took his report, and we ended up continuing our pleasure party. Pleasure parties are a place where everything that has to do with sexuality is on the table. So questions about position, questions about body parts, questions about technique, questions about anything and everything that has to do with sexuality in a positive vein are what are discussed at pleasure parties. The whole idea is to lift up the subject and to help us understand that our bodies are a wonderful recipient for pleasure, and that really from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, you can enjoy your body's sensations. And if you know technique, and if you know your lover's preferences, and if you come to your meeting with your sweetheart and they come with the same attitude of giving to one another, it can be a very uplifting, empowering, and beautiful experience. So remember, lovemaking is a living art. And the more you know, the more you can expect and the more you will enjoy your sexuality. I hope you get a chance someday to attend a pleasure party. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. It could only happen at a pleasure party. And next week, I'll have another story for you, another crazy, wild, hey, it actually happened story from my many years of doing these shows. In the meantime, do your Kegel exercises every day. And if you can't do them all in one sitting, every time you stop at a traffic light, knock out as many as you can until that light changes. And namaste, everybody. Love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now.